Hello, everyone. Even as the funeral of Alexei Navalny concluded, his followers with posters like Navalny was killed by Putin are already being arrested. And this, folks, emphasizes how disorganized and ineffective Russian opposition is. First of all, they support somebody like Navalny, a homophobic nationalist who referred to people who were not Russian nationals as insects. Okay? Second, they are choosing to show their opposition in the ways that are not going to achieve their goals and only going to put them in danger, them and, their fellow oppositioners. From that standpoint, that second point is interesting, that there's a report from a Russian media that there was a drone attack on an apartment building in St. Petersburg. First of all, I'd like to see some proof, because once again, they cried wolf too many times. They lied too much about such attacks on Russian territory. Second, if it is an internal act of sabotage, it's better than standing around with posters, guys. But you know, and I know, that any incident that involves civilians and civilian targets on Russian territory is going to be blamed on Ukraine. It's not going to help Ukraine. If you want to help Ukraine, take your drones and launch them against military targets, airfields, military bases, munitions factories, fuel supply bases, and so on and so forth. There is a smart way to do this, and you're not doing it. Meanwhile, speaking of drones, there has been a deadly drone attack against the Ukrainian city of Odessa. There were casualties, including a child. Here we have some photographs from the site. As you can see, it's just apartment buildings. These are not NATO headquarters in Odessa. This is not military barracks. The people were just living here, and they got pounded with drones. So apparently 9 drones were fired, 7 got brought down. Unfortunately, 2 were not. And this is what we know now is that casualties included a 3-year-old child. And again, those of you who keep saying, children should not suffer, when you make your case in in the conflict between Israel and Palestine, I agree, children should not suffer. So considering how many children were killed in the war in Ukraine, how many is going to be too many? Plus the, 11,000 that were kidnapped. Anybody cares about those? Fine. You don't care about the adults in Ukraine. You don't care about Ukraine as a country. But what about the children? You claim to care about children. Well, here we go. A 3-year-old killed. One of many. We had babies killed. We had kindergartners killed. We had, preschoolers, high schoolers, you name it. Where are you now with your claims for care about children? This is from Radio Free Europe, and this is interesting. So, I don't agree with Kasparov on everything. I am a huge fan of his as a former chess champion, and he is one of the smarter oppositioners to Russia. And like I said, while I don't agree with him on everything, most of the stuff he says and most of the stuff he suggests is worth listening to. In this particular case, he brought up something that I mentioned months ago, specifically that it would benefit the world if Russia loses the war in Ukraine in yet another way, aside from all the obvious ways, because it will possibly galvanize some of the Russia's regions, some of the parts of what is now Russian Federation, to separate from Russia. Why does this make sense? Well, again, because nationalism in Russia is rampant. That is a well-known fact. Because again, case in point, Alexei Navalny, who was a very, very much a nationalist, and yet here he is, he's their hero. And I told you before, you can tell a lot about people from who their heroes are, and this is their hero. So, all those people he referred to as vermin and insects, people, living in Tatarstan, Bashkirstan, Dagestan, Chechnya, all of those may decide to, hey, not worth it. Now, actually, I don't think they should wait for Russia to lose the war in Ukraine. Do it now. Because guess what? All of Russia's military is tied up in Ukraine. They can't really provide a very strong response if you decide to separate. If you want to go now. And incidentally, by that, you will help Ukraine, because if they try to respond, they will have their military stretched so thin that they cannot maintain the war on multiple fronts. And then this is still on the table, and I hope it works out. Oh, God, I so hope this works out. So, everybody knows that the bill providing the help to Ukraine, humanitarian aid to Gaza and to Israel, is stalled because Speaker Mike Johnson will not let it onto the floor. There is a way within the House to work around him and get it, voted on, but it is complicated and it may take a long time. So, this is something that's been talked about for a while now, and I just don't understand why they don't just do this. There are existing Pentagon stockpiles of ammo, and Ukraine doesn't need all of them. They just need the ones that, go with the weapons that they have. And the suggestion is just give it to them. You can make more. I hope that as President Biden is considering doing this, that they're considering it seriously, because again, we have human lives on the line. This needs to happen quickly. And again, these are the stockpiles. That's been just sitting there. Some of it for quite some time. And nothing wrong with our military manufacturing. We have a huge military industrial complex. They can make more. And again, the big plus of this, that this can be done ASAP without waiting for House Republicans to get their act together. This article is in New York Times, so you can go and read about the detail and get into the mechanics of how this particular piece would work. And again, before you lose your shit over the amount of money, please keep in mind that what U.S. had sent to Ukraine so far is but a fraction of what U.S., for example, had spent annually on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's a tiny fraction of what Americans overall spend on non-essential purchases annually. Again, I hope this option works. I hope it goes through and allows Ukraine to at least hold on until additional aid is made possible.